Okay, so a couple months ago, I was in this very car and I was making a video about the QB carousel in the NFL. It's like, here's a lot of the guys who are either free agents, are about to be drafted, or there's a lot of speculation about where they'll go. Like, with some players like Aaron Rodgers, a lot of speculation about, okay, is he going to stay a Packer? Probably not. Is he going to get traded? If it's so, is it going to be to the Jets? Is he going to retire? The whole Lamar Jackson situation, and then even other guys like Mac Jones, who, not a whole lot of rumors, but there was starting to be some that maybe he wasn't going to stay in New England, maybe they were trying to trade him, all that kind of shit. So now that free agency is basically, like, the huge part of free agency is done, the draft is done, and a lot of those big name dominoes have fallen, I kind of want to just kind of go over, here's all the guys that I talked about in my video, here is what ended up happening, and if I was right or if I wasn't right, and then my tally at the end is like, this is how many I got right, this is how many I got wrong. Here are the guys who are still to be determined, because I believe there are 3 that I mentioned in the original video, and as far as I know today, which is, May 6th? I think yesterday was Cinco de Mayo, so today should be May 6th. This is where, excuse me, as of this date, they are still not currently signed. One of which I thoroughly expected to not be signed. I don't expect him to be signed anytime soon, if at all. But regardless, starting from the top, Lamar Jackson, I had him staying in Baltimore, and I was correct. Now, I wasn't sure if he would get franchise tagged or a full deal. He got a full deal. He got his money. The next guy was Aaron Rodgers, who I thought was going to retire. I know there was a lot of talk about him going to the Jets. I had Derek Carr going to the Jets because I thought Rodgers was just going to walk away. And it sounds like he was pretty close to walking away, but I guess the Packers thoroughly burned that bridge, and it pissed him off enough to say, no, 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 no. I'm not just going to walk away. Now I want to play for another team. So I was wrong about that. He ended up going to the Jets. And like I said, I thought Carr was going to go to the Jets, so that's another one I got wrong. He ended up going to my Saints instead. So I really hope it works out. I hope he balls out. I hope he has the best season of his career, and he keeps getting better his next few years when he's in New Orleans. After that, I had Zach Wilson. I was like, I don't think he's going to get traded. I don't think he's going to get cut, and I was 100% correct about that. Carson Wentz. This was my first to be determined guy. I had him going to the Falcons as either kind of like a 1 to 2 year bridge starter for Desmond Ridder or to be a good backup for Desmond Ridder, and he is still a free agent, so we'll see about him. Jimmy G, I had going to the Saints. I was wrong. He's the guy that went to the Raiders. This was like the trio of 49ers quarterbacks. The other 2, Purdy and Lance, I just had staying with the Niners. And so far, that is correct. They could still trade Trey Lance. I would not be surprised if it happened. Okay, because at the time, I didn't even think about putting Sam Darnold on the list. And now he is in San Francisco. So I look at that and go, well, you got Purdy. You've got now a new backup in Darnold. After what just happened in the NFC Championship, I would not be surprised if they carried 3 dudes on their roster all season. But maybe they get to a point where they're like, Lance just hasn't done anything yet. I mean, not that Darnold's done a whole lot in the league either. But maybe a team is going to give them a really good offer for Lance. It wouldn't surprise me, but as of now, he's still on the team. Dalton. Dalton I had going to Tennessee, and I was wrong about that. He ended up going to Carolina. The next one is interesting. So Jameis, when I was making the video, I had said Jameis Winston, I don't know, I guess he stays in New Orleans. And then by the end of the video, I was like, well, I forgot to put someone going to the Raiders. Fuck it. I'll just say Jameis goes to the Raiders. So he is staying in New Orleans. So my initial prediction was correct. But by the end of the video, I had changed my mind. So I'm going to when I do my final tallies, I give myself half a point in being correct and half a point in being wrong for Jameis. You can argue if it should be because I changed my mind, a full point in being wrong. You could argue that I only changed my mind because I realized no one was going to the Raiders. My gut said he was staying in New Orleans, and it was correct. So I think it's fair to say kind of half and half. After that, I have Tannehill, who I thought was good. So what's funny to me is like, all right, Dalton, he's going to Tennessee. No, he's in Carolina. Tannehill, I thought was going to go to Carolina, but no, he's staying in Tennessee. That's just kind of like, I'm not giving myself like any weird alpha points for that because they switch. I just think that's funny. But, oh, excuse me. A couple interesting notes about both Carolina and Tennessee in my video. This is something I didn't really give myself points for this, but a couple things, because I did rewatch my video as I was making this. So I did say for Carolina, because they were picking at number 9, I did not think they would pick any of the guys in the draft, at least in the first round, unless they traded up for Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. I specifically said, unless they trade up for one of those two guys, which is exactly what happened. Like, all right, I'm not going to give myself a point for that, but I'm going to give myself a little pat on the back for calling it. And I did say that Tennessee would end up with either Richardson or Levis. As we were going into the draft, I was just thinking that, like, Tennessee is going to get Levis, and that is exactly what happened. So, yeah, I'll give myself a pat on the other shoulder, pat on the other side of the back. After that, Mayfield, I had going to the Bucks, correct. Geno, I said he's going to stay in Seattle, he's going to get a big deal, correct. Mariota, I had him going to the Cardinals as a kind of mini Kyler Murray. That was wrong. He ended up going to the Eagles. I guess it's more of a mini Jalen Hurts. Let's see. Okay, Bryce Young, I thought was going to get drafted by Houston. That is incorrect. They ended up getting CJ Stroud, who I had going to the Colts, so that's also incorrect. I really thought the Colts were going to trade up to number 1, grab Stroud, and Young would fall to Houston, but it's not what happened. I did say that the Bears were going to keep Fields, not draft any of the new guys. That was correct. Matt Ryan is the second of the to be determined. I had him going to Miami. Hasn't happened yet. Again, as far as I am aware, Matt Ryan has not been signed anywhere. Next, Mac Jones. I said, even despite the rumors, I think he's going to stay in New England. That's correct. Tua, I think he's just going to stay in Miami. I know there's a lot of things about maybe he'll retire. Maybe the Dolphins are going to try to move on, but I don't think that either of those are going to come to fruition yet, and I was correct. Trubisky, I just said he's going to stay in Steelers as a backup. He's going to stay in Pittsburgh as a backup. That's correct. Danny Dimes, I said was going to stay with the Giants. That's correct. I did think he was going to get franchise tagged. So that's another one. It's like, I got the overall result right, so I gave myself a full point. You can argue if that should be a half and half because I got the deal wrong, and it was one of the only ones I was like, this is the deal I think he's going to get. Excuse me. And the last player I had was Brady. Brady is the big TBD. What I had said was, I don't think he's going to be on a roster week 1, which is still correct. I think what is going to happen is partway through the season, there is going to be a contender that suffers a big injury. I don't know who it's going to be, but given what happened last year, I would put money on it being San Francisco if it's going to be anybody, because wow, their luck with QBs has been fucking bad the last few years. Someone, again, like I think it's going to be a contender, is going to lose their QB, and they're going to call up Brady. And I think depending on the team, like again, like how good the team actually looks, how much of it is a team that he actually wants to play for. Like I think he's in Florida right now, so if something happens with Tua, God forbid, this is not something I'm rooting for to happen. Please understand that. But if something happens with Tua, I think Brady would say, bet, I'll play for Miami. If something happens to Purdy and Darnold's not panning out or Lance isn't panning out, and they're like, hey, Brady, you want to come play for your hometown team? Man, I have a lot of fucking hair. I should probably get it cut soon. But it's like, Brady, you want to come play for your favorite team? Bet, I think he would. If something happens with Mac Jones, would he go back to New England for one more season? I don't know, but that would be kind of cool. I'm not going to lie. Again, not wishing anything on Mac Jones. Or like Brady to play one more year in a Pats uniform, regardless of what happens. So, looking at all my numbers, I have 3 players to be determined. Wrong, I would say about 8.5. Correct, about 10.5. Again, Jameis is the only one I put half on. You could maybe argue I got that right. Maybe you could argue I definitely got that wrong. You could also, with Danny Dimes, you could argue I got that fully correct. Maybe I got it half wrong. Maybe that should be another half and half, which in that case, I believe that would be 9. I believe so if Danny Dimes is not considered fully right and is a half and half, The correct 10.5 would go down to 10, and the incorrect 8.5 would go to 9. So, given, with the TBD guys, TBD, so I don't know, I actually got more right than I got wrong. And I'm a bit surprised by that. Like, when I was like, man, Carr did not go where I thought I was going to go. Shit, Rodgers didn't go where I thought he was going to go. Oh man, those are like two of the really big ones. How many of these guys did I actually get right? I thought I did terrible. And actually going through it, I was like, you know what? I didn't do too bad. But it was something I wanted to revisit, just to be like, all right, I put a video out there. This is where I was. How on the money was I? And about 50-50, and I'll take that. I don't think that's too bad. And like I said, I didn't give myself official credit for my predictions that Carolina wouldn't take a guy unless it was trading up for a younger Stroud, or that Tennessee would for sure get either Richardson or Levis, definitely leaning more toward Levis. But it's still something I thought I would shout out, and I had fun with it.